analyst Brian Sobel. And Brian, it really is remarkable what we saw today at the U.S. Capitol. Scenes of fear, of chaos. How did this happen?
We're going to find out, because I think the security component of this was a failure of the First Order. I've been in the Capitol many, many, many times. In fact, some of those scenes really made my stomach turn, because I've walked through those doors. I've been in all those places. But I can tell you, during the State of the Union address, when everybody from the president on down is there, except for the quote-unquote lone survivor someplace else, or the person that they secrete elsewhere, that place is filled with law enforcement. I mean, every nook and cranny has law enforcement. And today, Heather, it didn't look like they had adequate security there, but I don't want to jump to that conclusion. That's what it looked like. I don't know, when you have thousands of people that descend on any particular place, whether you can stop them with a few hundred officers, short of starting to shoot people. And that's not America. And what we saw today was so ugly, so stomach-turning, that it's just an image that's going to stick with us for a while.
Brian, obviously, you know, President Trump has continued to refuse to acknowledge his loss in the presidential election. He obviously gave this morning here, before the events that unfolded at the Capitol, he gave that fiery speech in Washington, D.C., and he urged his supporters to continue fighting and to go to the Capitol. How much responsibility does he bear for the violent scene that we saw unfold today? Did he incite this?
Incite is a very strong word, but he has to take a great deal of credit for this crowd that was already prepared to be upset, thinking the election was stolen, and then insinuating that they could make a change by marching on Capitol Hill. And in any crowd, we know this, 5% of them, or 2% or 1%, are not there to really protest. They're there to create chaos. We have seen it on the streets of America through the aftermath of peaceful protests around the shootings by police officers and these other movements. As America, we need a national gut check about how we protest. And we need to condemn violence. It doesn't matter what the issue is. We cannot turn to raiding the Capitol of the United States, to burning down businesses in the middle of communities. It has gone too far. We have to call a halt to it and start talking to one another with respect. And that's where we have to get back to, Alec.
Yeah, and one important note, though, Brian, is that in his Twitter message, which has now been removed, President Trump did not condemn the actions of the protesters. Instead, he urged them to go home and to go home in peace. But there's a big difference in condemning the actions and praising them.
Absolutely, Heather. That was a glaring omission in that tweet, which should have said, what you're doing is wrong, get out, go home. But instead, the tweets that he released today were basically saying, the police are our friends, don't do anything to them, but did not call these thugs out, and that's what they are, whether they're at the Capitol or whether they're in some inner city throwing Molotov cocktails. These are thugs that are bent on destroying this country as we know it, and they need to be dealt with on that basis. And the president fell far short of doing the right thing today, in my view. And you can tell I'm a little passionate about it.
Yeah, no, a lot of people agree with you, Brian. Where do we go from here? How do you think you see lawmakers on both sides of the aisle respond to this unbelievable scene that we saw unfold at the Capitol today? You know, there's already some talk about drawing up articles of impeachment. There are even some Republicans who are talking openly about potentially invoking the 25th Amendment. What kind of a response do you think we see to what happened?
Well, I think what you're going to see is Republicans reject, everything that went on today. I think you're going to see them speak out. We've already heard from a number of conservative Republicans saying this was wrong on every level. I think this is going to backfire on the president, even if this wasn't his ultimate intention. I don't know about invoking the 25th Amendment. That's That's a hard thing to do because it involves other issues. But what I'm hoping is that we will quit picking winners and losers in these debates to the extent that we can't understand what the other side is thinking or feeling. And we have to begin the process of listening, whether you're a Democrat or Republican or whatever, to the other side without condemning the person. Maybe the idea doesn't sit well with you, but America is built on the idea of ideas, and you can't get away from that. And when you see scenes like we're looking at here of people breaking windows, all of those people ought to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law and frankly, publicly shamed, just as I feel about other things I saw through the last few months. Violence in America has to stop, and we all have to be party to that. And the rhetoric we hear on Capitol Hill is part and parcel of that problem. And I think if anything happens out of today, we may see a lowering of the temperature on Capitol Hill because both sides have responsibility here.
Well, that is what we can hope, right? That eventually the two sides come together. But boy, just a remarkable day and frankly, a really sad day for all of us here in America. Brian Sobel, always appreciate it. Thank you.